Okay guys, for the homework tonight, you're going to make a position time graph. So position is going to be on the y-axis, time is going to be on the x-axis, and you're going to have two directions that you can move in. You can move in the positive direction or the negative direction. So when you're on Nearpod and you're sketching your graphs, you want to make sure that you have the x-axis is divided. Below the x-axis is your negative direction, and above the x-axis is your positive direction. And then you're going to get a prompt for each graph that you're going to draw. And the prompts are going to be things like, for example, sketch a position time graph for an object that is moving with a constant positive velocity. So if you look at the prompt, so what you're going to do is you're going to make an object that moves, and here are the key words, right, with a constant positive velocity. Velocity is both speed and direction. They're not giving you a number for the velocity. Like they could, right? They could say 3 meters per second or 10 meters per second or something, but they're not telling you. It's just a positive velocity. And what does that mean? Well, since you can't travel at a negative speed, right? You can't go negative 3 meters per second. What that means is it's telling you the negative and positive is just telling you the direction you're moving in. So you have a positive velocity. That means that not that you're speeding up, but that you are traveling in the direction we're calling positive. We could call it north and south if we want to. So don't get confused. Positive doesn't mean you're speeding up. Negative doesn't mean you're slowing down. Those are telling you the direction you're moving. Because we're not speeding up or slowing down, because our velocity is constant. Our speed is the same throughout. And whenever speed remains the same, that just means that we're drawing a straight line on our position time graph. So it can be any straight line that we want that moves upwards. So it could be like this, it could be like this, it could be like this, it could be like this. The difference among these lines is that line A has the highest velocity, B is a little bit lower, C is lower, D is lower. And if we had a line that was parallel to the x-axis, we'll call it letter E, that line would be a velocity of 0, not moving at all. You can think of position as being similar to distance. Your distance, though, if you had distance on the y-axis, then you couldn't measure which direction you were moving in. You could just measure how far you've gone. So think of it this way. If you were to walk back and forth, pacing back and forth in your room, you might cover, you might do 10 trips back and forth. And that might be, I don't know, let's say that your room is 50 feet across, which would be a long room. But let's just say if you do 10 trips back and forth, you'd cover 500 feet. However, your position would not change because you'd be going back and forth, so you'd just be bouncing back and forth between two positions. You would never get 50 meters away from your original spot. Okay, so for each of the graphs, you need to ask yourself, is the speed you're being asked or the velocity you're being asked to draw, is it constant or is it changing? If it's changing, then you have to be able to show how it's changing. Is it going up or is it going down? If you don't draw a straight line, if you draw a curve, so let me clear this up. So for example, if you draw something like this, that's not a straight line. What's happening there? Well, you're not covering the same amount of distance for every unit of time, so you're accelerating. That's what you're doing there, right? So this would not be a constant positive velocity. This would be an increasing positive velocity. You'd be accelerating, and it's positive because you're moving in the positive direction. This, by contrast, what would that be? Well, you're moving in the negative direction, and your position is negative. What about your velocity? Is your velocity changing? Yep. It's starting out slow and it's getting faster and faster. So it's just the mirror thing in the opposite direction. So you're still speeding up there even though the line is pointing down. So this is really a thought exercise. You have to decide, am I constant or am I speeding up or slowing down? You can also do lines that meet on your graph. Let me show you. So for example, if instead of a constant positive velocity, if I said sketch a position time graph for an object that is moving with a positive velocity and then a faster positive velocity. And I'm going to leave the word constant in there. Hold on, let me change this. Okay, so I totally changed it. So it says sketch a position time graph for an object that's moving with a constant positive velocity followed by a slightly higher constant velocity. So here, here, is my constant positive velocity, and now I need a slightly higher. So I've got to change the angle of my slope, the lines should connect, so that my velocity has increased, right? Because it's a slightly higher constant velocity. Nobody says you're going to get all these right. You're going to do the best that you can, and we're going to talk about it in class tomorrow. All I'm grading you on when you get there is that you completed the graphs on Nearpod, and that you, after we go over them in class, I'll give you the quiz testing whether or not you understand what you're doing. So not doing the homework, not filling out those graphs on Nearpod will affect your ability to follow along with the lesson. If you have trouble with the app, and again, I'm going to email you the Nearpod information so you know how to get on Nearpod and what code to use and all that. If you're having trouble with the Nearpod app or the Nearpod website, then I also have on the same assignment on my classroom, I have a PDF that has all the questions on it. It's just the first 10 questions that I need you to do. You can sketch them on regular paper if you have to, but it will work much better as a lesson if everybody's able to do it on the actual app. So please try to do that for me. Okay, guys, I'll see you in class.